This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. We are back. Celebrates our first month of our grand restart.
Is it really? Is this the fourth show?
This is the fourth show.
Holy smokes, the time flies.
It does. And you know what? We haven't killed each other.
Nope.
We haven't yelled at each other. We haven't called each other idiot or bonehead.
That's true. You remember? Do you remember?
We both matured.
Do you remember? Don't accuse me of that. Do you remember our last show, the very last show before we took a hiatus, and you and I got testy with each other for probably the first time in our relationship, where I think I looked at you and I told you to be quiet directly to your face.
Yep.
And I apologized after we got off air because I don't usually let my temper go like that. But folks, if you're enjoying sort of the kinder, that's not even a word. If you're enjoying the kinder, gentler version of Doc and Lefty, then you can really credit that last show. I think it put things into perspective for me. I can't speak for the doctor.
Yeah. Well, but there are other stressors going on at the time. You know, we both knew the station wasn't doing well.
That's true.
You know, we're like, dude, we love this, but you know, and I was trying to sell advertising. How do you sell advertising for a show?
I was trying to graduate from law school.
Yeah, and you did that.
I did.
You did your job. I didn't do mine. Go figure. So anyway, we have a whole lot of fun today, if you want to call talking about the secession thing and everything else. Let's start with this. Let's start with secession.
Secession?
Yeah, there's a big thing. It made all the news last week. I think it's because it's a slow news week. Texas has over 100,000 people that signed a petition for secession. Over 40 states at this point have signed a petition for secession. All these states, including Iowa, have over 25,000 signatures. I don't know. Is
that true? That 40 states have 25,000 signatures? I don't think that's true. Is it?
Well, that's what I was looking up today. That's what Politico said. So, take it for what it's worth. I know Iowa has a petition out there. I know we've hit 25,000 signatures. I could be wrong. Now the problem is Obama really, I don't know what his deal is. He tries to reach out, but he's like Paul Sr. If you've been watching American Chopper, Paul Sr.'s like, well, it has to be my way or hit the highway. Well, then he tries to reach out to his sons, and that doesn't work very well, because they're like, well, hold on, we have a different approach. So I don't know if it's a Paul Sr. syndrome or what the deal is. Anyway, he's trying to reach out to people. He says, I'm going to put a petition on the White House internet. That way, if a petition gets on I will address every petition that gets there that has over 25,000 signatures. I may not agree. We may not do anything about it, but at least I'll address it. So that's what these people have done, is they've put all these names on there. Well, now the problem is, as we all know, you can hack the snot out of anything. So are these signatures real? Are they not real? And the rest of it. That isn't the issue. The issue is a significant portion of people have become so irate with the way the government is going that they have decided that they would rather form their own country. And you can form your own country. However, there's a lot of legal wrangling that goes on with that. The other thing is, now I'm not the legal expert here, but it seems to me we fought a war to determine if states can secede or not. And apparently, once you're in the union, it's like being stuck in a bad marriage, except you really aren't granted a divorce. Is that how you understand it?
Well, I'm looking at the Los Angeles Times right now.
Oh my God!
Is that the good one? Is that the good Los Angeles paper? Or is that the bad Los Angeles paper?
They're both bad.
Which one does Rupert Murdoch own? Is that the Los Angeles Post?
I don't know which one he owns.
Because
like Rupert Murdoch and I hang out all the time. This is what
well, hold on a second, because this is what I see as of the November 14th. Okay, a couple weeks ago. Sure. Well, actually last week.
Yeah.
That they've received petitions from all 50 states. People have, which stands to reason, since there are probably people that don't like Obama in every single state in the country.
Yeah.
That to appear on the website, a petition must receive more than 150 signatures. For the petition to be granted a response from the White House, it must receive at least 25,000 signatures. Currently, 6 secession petitions have reached that threshold: Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas. Go figure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. This, to me, this isn't really all that big of a story, honestly. No one's really reported on it except that they, to kind of say, oh, okay, fine. I guess my opinion, let them.
Yeah. Well,
let them.
It would be nice to have Texas as a separate state.
These Texans, it's so funny to listen to them because these Texas Republicans, and they're Republicans, frankly.
Frankly, they're Republicans?
Yes. Say all the time, Texas doesn't need the United States needs Texas. Bull crap.
Yeah.
Just like most southern states, Texas receives a snot load of aid from the federal government. The federal government maintains its interstate highways. The federal government subsidizes its public universities and its its private its public high schools. For any Republican to suggest, and Texas economy isn't as
good as ours.
No.
This is one thing that most people don't know, and that is Iowa's the only state in the union that has the ability. I'm not saying it does, but it has the ability to be completely independent from the rest of the country, because we have plenty of alternative fuel sources, we have plenty of food, we have plenty of manufacturing. So,
and we have plenty of empty space. We'd be able to. The population isn't as dense as other places.
No, well, we shouldn't say as dense. We're pretty smart up here, but there's not as many.
I said it wasn't as dense, is what I'm saying.
Oh yes, yes.
It's not as empty as Wyoming.
No, it isn't as empty as Wyoming. And speaking of Franks and Republicans,
yeah,
Frank, are you a Republican?
I'm registered as one.
He's registered as one.
I don't think I really voted.
He's an Obama voter. He doesn't know what he wants.
That sounds like a typical response to the identity crisis that is in the Republican Party.
Oh, absolutely, man. I wish we were talking about that. So now we've covered secession. We are going to be back with afterwards with this giant snake pit that's become Libya, the Middle East, Petraeus. This whole thing is tied together. This is a mess over there. So when we get back, we'll be talking about the giant mess that whoever becomes the next CIA director gets to handle. You're listening to Doc and Lefty every Tuesday from 6 to 7 here on webcast1live.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Stay tuned for our sponsors.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Beard off.
Well, Frank didn't do his job. He only gave us 1 minute instead of a 3-minute break here.
I don't know why you got to keep throwing him under the bus like that, Doc. It's not nice.
Well, because, I'm the president. I threw everybody under the bus. So, speaking of the president, what a mess he's got. Not only does he have Libya that kind of blew up in his face, and not only does he have one of the best generals of all time, period, of all time, one of the best organizers ever, that is in a scandal so deep that it's really starting to shake up the Pentagon. Not only all that, Hamas and Israel are going at it tooth and nail. Tooth and nail. What a mess over there.
Yep.
Now, for those of you who don't know, Petraeus was doing a biography. Anybody who rises to the level that Petraeus and these other generals rise to, particularly if you're in get to be part of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. One, you have to be a consummate politician. Number two, you have to be alpha male all the way. And three, we all know alpha males really can't keep their pants zipped up. All right? That's just a hallmark trait of them. So, i.e., Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So here we are with this gal named Broadwell, who apparently gets jealous of somebody else's floozy. And this floozy's name is Jill Kelly, I think. Gets jealous of her, starts writing threatening emails for whatever reason to this gal to get her to back away from her man, who is married. Things blow up, right? Eric Holder knows about this in June. Doesn't tell the president. I didn't think the president needed to know that his CIA director was having an affair, plus his mistress was going bonkers, threatening other women. Now, if I'm the president, I want to know if something like that's happening.
So, well, but hold on, because I mean, this goes sort of to the core of what the FBI does and what the Attorney General does. There's been broad consensus that the Attorney General and the FBI Director don't tell the president everything all the time, 100%, unless it rises to a security problem, because, as happened in Watergate, the FBI can be used, or can be attempted to be used by the president if the FBI and the Attorney General are too close to commit crimes. We just, the law enforcement arm of the federal government is the FBI. We do not want them in bed with the president, vice versa. What's his name? The guy that the cross-dresser, J. Edgar Hoover. Yeah. J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, got so powerful he had files on everybody. Yes. And was able to blackmail John F. Kennedy with Bobby's affair with Marilyn Monroe. So it just it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me that the Attorney General and the FBI wouldn't necessarily turn something like that over to the president, because they were investigating it. They found no evidence of any kind of security breach, no evidence of a national security problem with the affair. Let him have his, let him do his thing, let him get caught by his wife, let him handle it since it's a personal matter. On the other hand,
but why did they take? Not only, here's the trick. I understand that argument. I get it, but why let it go this long? One, it is obviously it's a security breach to me. Obviously, it is, because you have two people that have intimate knowledge of where your CIA director is going to be all the time, right? And then a security breach, you don't even know where he's at.
Well, his wife's going to know all the time. I mean,
yeah, and
his mistress isn't going to do this. That's what I'm talking about, evidence.
But you see, the thing is she used an anonymous email. They had no idea who it was. All they knew, they had a ton of emails coming in. So They determined it's not a security breach. Fine. But now you have your CIA director in a position of compromise. We've talked about the Bill Clinton affair before. I don't care who he screws. But when you're having an affair in a position of power, that makes you vulnerable to black.
And I understand that, and I'm sensitive to that. And I think that you're probably right in that analysis, except for the fact that just as in Bill Clinton, upon investigation, no evidence that any blackmail occurred or was likely to occur. And that's the issue. That's the key issue, is that this thing, we're finding out about it now because somebody leaked the story to the press. They didn't close ranks. If that hadn't happened, if someone hadn't been so titillated by this story, we would never have known about it. And honestly, it wouldn't really have mattered, because I have to assume, given the kind of guy that David Petraeus has held himself out to be all these years, that had Susan Broadwell sent him, or laying in bed one night, or sent him a letter, called him on the phone, Fatal Attraction style, and started blackmailing him, or trying to blackmail him, he would have gone straight to the president. I got to believe that about him, because he would have said, "Hold on a second, I am now compromised. Now I'm compromised." You can I think that practically you can have an affair as a CIA director or even as the president and not be compromised. Now, is that naive? Of course it is, because I think that I still do agree with the assessment that you have to step down once that stuff kind of
occurs, you bet.
If it's affecting your job. And I think that there's probably some indications that it was affecting how he did his job, because he wasn't well liked at the CIA.
Yeah. Well, but they took a completely different approach with the FBI. The FBI generally doesn't involve anything like that. They don't research and they don't get involved with that. But they did in this case.
Well, that's because she called in a favor.
Yeah.
Jill Kelly was friends with somebody. The FBI agent really overstepped his or her bounds in even beginning this investigation in the first place.
Yeah,
she should have gone to her local police department.
Well, now let me hit the conspiracy issue front because I kind of like that stuff. Now, my conspiracy is Obama did know. Obama knew, right? Eric Holder had to have told him. This is crazy. You have your CIA director having an affair and got the FBI involved with the threat. Now, this Jill Kelly's tied in with this General Allen guy, and it's working its way down the ranks. I think that Obama kept it under wraps, and then after he got reelected, went, there you go, you're out, besmirching his reputation, everything else all along the way. Because now Petraeus, who is a Republican, cannot run for office very well because he's got
Newt did.
Yeah, but Newt's Newt. You've met him.
I have met him.
You met the man. I've never seen a bigger. I have seen bigger megalomaniacs. Don't get me wrong. And it's not that I don't like Newt. I do. But I'm as a psychiatrist, you have to accept them the way they come.
Hey, but in the primary, the problem with Newt wasn't his affairs. It was his ideas. They were rejected. The conservative base, that religious coalition conference that we went to, loved Newt, loved him. They ate him up. He got the biggest applause lines of the night. All I'm saying is that now, in 2012, almost 2013, the United States public doesn't really care about affairs. If the president did know, really what he did was politically ingenious because he was able to cut down somebody and save his own ass at the same time. Oh,
yeah. So you and I both kind of agree that could be a good conspiracy theory.
Well, but see, it's not really a conspiracy theory because who cares?
A conspiracy is more than one.
Well,
or two
all I'm saying is no one really cares about it though, because if that were true,
probably right.
If that were true, it looks less like it wouldn't have affected anybody's political calculations. Do you think that any voter on November 6th went to the ballot, if they had known, went to the ballot and said, "Gosh, man, I really wish that the president had taken time out of not fixing the economy to tell me all about the David Petraeus affair. Man, I'm going to vote for Romney now." No, it's just not reasonable.
No, well, and I agree with that. Now, the thing is now Petraeus said, listen, in my dispatch, I put down that it was an Al-Qaeda attack, basically.
Oh, you're talking about Libya now.
Yeah, back to Libya. Because this whole thing's a mess.
But see, he testified, though.
Yeah.
He testified. So, the whole idea that this came out to keep him from testifying about Libya is completely false.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I knew he'd testify, and all my Republican buddies were up in arms that Hillary was heading to Australia. Oh, she's taking a vacation. No, this is something that was been planned in Australia for I don't know how long, months. And
same with the Burma trip.
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, this is a trip that they had. If you guys wanted to have her testify, you should have scheduled around her leaving. It's not like they didn't know.
And do we really know that she's going to that she's not going to be renominated? Honestly,
well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
That's what's so weird about this whole thing.
Nobody. Well, Holder said, "Well, I might stay a year." Clinton has said several times, "I'm not going to stay," but yet there's no talk of anybody replacing her.
Well,
so
everyone
sure what's going
thinks Susan Rice would be a good fit, but I haven't heard. I guess I haven't heard Hillary say that if she were nominated, she wouldn't accept it.
Yeah, that's true.
I just feel like the whole thing is premature.
Yeah.
And I feel like Lindsey Graham and John McCain beating their drums about Susan Rice is just it's misplaced. It's misplaced petulance.
All right. Well, we have to take a break right now. I don't believe it's misplaced petulance. I do believe that there are far better candidates than Susan Rice. We're going to be back in about a minute. Frank, are we going to be back in a minute, or are you going to play a 9-minute commercial now? Frank says 1. Be back in 1 minute. Thanks for tuning in every Tuesday here from 6 to 7 p.m. on Des Moines' premier internet radio station, webcast1live.com. We'll be back in a minute. Thanks for tuning in.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity. tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
Oh, hey, yeah, thanks.
This is a low rent operation today.
Hold on,
it's 1 month anniversary is not. We got our minds on the holiday. We got our minds on Thanksgiving. True. On what we're going to eat, what we're thankful for. And before we get back to Libya, what are you going to do on Thanksgiving?
What am I?
Yep.
Well, I don't know what I'm going to do. My mom's been bugging me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about going to Morocco. I don't know what I'm doing. So if I go to Morocco, I'm leaving tomorrow. So hopefully the staff will be on notice to cancel my patients tomorrow.
Sure.
So
I mean, we can discuss your trip to Morocco in a second. No, my lovely girlfriend has decided that she wants to cook. She has to work on Friday, so we can't go anywhere.
Okay.
She doesn't have the luxury that I do, that it can just take a Friday off and not do anything. But she wants to cook Thanksgiving for the two of us. So we went and we'll have like a picnic in our living room. Attendant to that, and I don't usually talk about stuff like this. She made me spend $300 to get ready for it.
What?
$300. It wasn't just the dinner. It was all the stuff that goes into it.
What'd you do? Kill the golden goose eating that?
Pretty much.
All right.
I felt like it.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
So, Susan Rice, what you're just saying in the middle, that Lefty thinks Susan Rice would make a good Secretary of State. I think she would be terrible at it. I think she's a great political hack.
I didn't say I wasn't endorsing Susan Rice. I don't care who he picks. I think it's up to the president. My whole comment was that Lindsey Graham and John McCain are acting like children. That's all. John McCain especially.
Well, John McCain often acts like a child. He remember during the presidential debate, he kind of does that.
It's just I think I don't know. I'm having a hard time talking about Libya, Doc, because I feel like the whole Libya thing's a non-story. It should be considered. It was a tragedy. It should be considered a tragedy, and this politicization is just unseemly to me. I don't. From my perspective, I don't want it to be used as for political purposes. But I'm going to tell you, something happened there that they screwed up. We know about it, though.
They screwed up.
We know what happened.
And you can't come out and say, listen, it was some anti-Islam video.
Nobody says
for 2 weeks. They did say it. Obama said it. Susan Rice said it 5 different times.
They also said it was an act of terrorism. Right away they did. The day after, the president came out and talked about it being an act of terror.
You're not right. He never said. He said these acts of terror, right? But it wasn't. But it was in general.
Referring to what? What was it referring to? These acts of terror referring to what?
In general.
Referring to what?
In general. But
these
Susan
acts of terror
Rice,
referred to what? They referred to the attack in the consulate that killed our ambassador.
That did not refer to that.
Yes, it did.
It didn't. If you watch the video, it doesn't have anything to do. When he says these acts of terror, he's far removed from talking about Libya at that time. What he's talking about is standing strong in the face of the wave of attacks that the rest of the world had experienced. At the same time, we had several attacks across, not only on our embassies, but everybody else's embassies. And when he started talking about everybody else's embassies, that's when he stopped talking about Libya and started talking about everybody else's stuff. Watch the video. It's obvious he really wasn't talking specifically about Libya. And then after that, he started on David Letterman and all the other talk shows he's on, including The View. He started talking about this anti-Islam video. That's what he did.
So does it matter though? Because the American public doesn't. The American public knows what happened. No, I mean, if there was a cover up, it failed. So that means it wasn't a very good cover-up.
No, it wasn't. I think it took him by surprise.
Of course it did, because the thing happened so fast. Cairo happened, then Libya happened. Cairo was the response to the video. The demonstrations that happened in Libya were a response to the video. The terrorist network used those protests as a cover to go in and attack the embassy. And you know what the story that gets buried in all of this is? That all of this hoopla about what happened in Libya, the most important part of that story is that the Libyan people, in response to the United States ambassador being murdered by their own countrymen, some of them probably were foreign, but some of their own countrymen rose up and whipped the snot out of him. They did. Because he was popular, because they liked him. He was doing a good job. That's what diplomacy does.
Absolutely.
That's what gets lost in all of this.
Now, my mom sent me an email this afternoon.
Oh, my.
And said, yes, I'm always nervous when my mom says we win.
I'm nervous when my mom sends emails, too.
Yeah, I'm sure that it took her 5 hours to hunt and peck out this one sentence email. But, sorry, Mom, I do love you. She asked, Pat, what is going on over in Israel? And so let's talk a little bit about how this Petraeus thing is spinning into this entire mess. There is a link there. All right? Believe it or not.
Okay, I'll let you get into the link, but I'll give you my quick 5-cent analysis of what's happened between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Do it.
Read the Bible. That's it. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's the same thing over and over again. They're fighting about. Read the story of Ishmael. That's it. That's all there is. That's the only. It's not more complicated than that. There's no weird, crazy angles to the fighting. It is the Arab-Israeli conflict that's been happening for thousands of years. They just have bigger, badder weapons now.
Yeah. Well, I know, but I can't tell you how I know, but I know that the intelligence community briefed President Obama about what was happening over in Israel and what the Hamas people want to do. Now, if you don't know who Hamas is, they're the military arm of the Lebanese government. There's two arms. There's the political arm and the
well, no, Hamas is independent of Lebanon. Hamas rules Gaza. They're the democratically elected.
Yes, that's right. You're correct.
Right. There's Lebanon has its own army.
Yeah. So Hamas is this military arm. And they said that they were planning to execute a series of rocket attacks to try to drum up support for their assault on Israel, with the rest of the Middle East being in turmoil. And that's when President Obama started going, kind of started distancing himself from that, not Yahoo and the rest of it, because he was trying to keep the Middle East people calm as he could. He couldn't come out and say, yeah, we're going to support Israel to bomb you again. Right? He couldn't do that before the election. That wouldn't look very good. So what happened is, as soon as the election happened, the Israelis go, all right, now that we know who we have to deal with, we're going to build up and we're going to attack, because the Israelis been building up for the last 2 weeks.
Well, first, I would say this about the Israelis, and I'd say this specifically about Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu made really no secret who he wanted to be the next president of the United States.
Oh, that's
really
true.
Made no secret. And it stands to reason, since they were old buddies back from the 80s. Netanyahu and Mitt Romney knew each other for a long, long time before this campaign. Yeah. It was obvious who he wanted to win. And he did this to Obama 4 years ago. Netanyahu and Obama hate each other.
Yes, absolutely.
They hate each other. I don't think that it's necessarily a double-sided hate. I think that Obama sort of was taken aback by the level of animosity he experienced in Netanyahu. I have no evidence of that, and it might be the other way around. I don't know. I'm just saying that the fact is they don't like each other very much. They have a very strained relationship, and Netanyahu uses attacks on Palestine to make the president look bad. He did it in 2008. He's doing it again, because what happens then is that the president is forced, because of our relationship with Israel, to stand behind acts of aggression from the Israeli people. Now, I'm not saying that the Israelis don't have the right to defend themselves. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying, though, that they have overwhelming force with which to bombard Gaza and the Gaza Strip, and on the other side,
the Golan Heights.
No, where Arafat used to be.
Oh, the PLO.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The two sides, the two sides of Israel has overwhelming force. These guys are throwing missiles at Israel. Israel is bombing, rockets like bazooka rockets. Yeah. Israel is bombing them with jets. It's just and heavy guns. So there really is no contest here. And also, Israel has an Iron Dome that deflects most of the rockets that get launched. It intercepts most of them.
That's true.
And so when Gaza, kind of pokes the bear and the bear rises up, internationally, Israel looks aggressive. Israel looks bad. And the president gets drawn into that, thus decreasing his role around the world, distracts him from stuff, very important diplomatic mission to Burma, which has never happened before, and draws us into another fight in the Middle East, therefore decreasing our stock again with folks that we're trying to pacify. And so I think it's a political tactic. I really do. I'm cynical that way.
We're going to be back in 3 minutes after the break. Hopefully Frank will get this one right this time. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes. We'll continue on with our discussion of Hamas, and then we'll get into unions and exactly what their worth is today. I'm willing to listen to all sides on this. Give us a call if you have an opinion. Our number is 1-800-244, oh no, excuse me, it's 1-888-244-0077. We'll be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. Thanks for tuning in.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician.
From Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. You're joining us on webcast1live.com. We're happy you're joining us tonight. Lefty and I are slugging it out over Libya and the role of Hamas and everything else. Of course, Lefty thinks that, it's all Israel's fault, and we all know, the smart ones in the group, all know that it's Hamas's fault. But Lefty hit it right on the head. All you got to do is read the Bible. It's been going on since that time. Here's the difference. There are nations that are Muslim with nuclear weapons, and there are Christian nations with nuclear weapons, and Israel has nuclear weapons. It behooves us all to settle back. Now, Hamas, I think, overestimated how the Arab world is going to respond to them goading Israel into attacking them, right? Because they shell them and shell them and shell them. Israel really didn't respond, and now they are responding. That's how. Now, part of what people don't understand is Israel started building in the Gaza Strip again. Well, what are you trying to do there? So anyway, I agree that it isn't just President Obama. They do this to a lot of American presidents.
That's true. That's true.
So
I think it's easier for Netanyahu because of his sort of distaste for President Obama. That's all.
Yeah, and the trick is Hamas is one of the demands that they have is they want to renegotiate the agreements that they had previously, and that would grant them much more power than they would have now, and it would also give them access to deeper parts of Israel with their missiles, all right, and their rockets and things like that. The problem with that is it would be a slow suicide for Israel to agree to it. Well, they're making that the Hamas is making that a requirement to renegotiate the agreements for a ceasefire, and of course, Israel isn't going to go with that. So Israel's continuing their buildup. I kept checking in with Stratfor.com today, which is an excellent site, and the updates that I got off there, basically Israel's not going to agree to a ceasefire with that on the table. So we're looking at Israelis are continuing to build up. In fact, after the show, I wouldn't be surprised when I got home and say Israel's invaded Gaza. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Not at all.
Well, the thing it's sort of irritating. The whole Israeli role in the conflict is kind of irritating because they have the nuts to take over the entire area. They just have to displace millions and millions of people and look really bad. So they want their cake and they want their cake and they eat it too, just like the Palestinians do. The Palestinians, but I don't know. I've been more sensitive to the Palestinian beef lately because you have 5 million people living in an area the size of Windsor Heights. And it's just it's unconscionable. Either figure out something to do with these people, or just wipe them out and accept the role of invader and genocide in chief. I know that using that line, I'm not trying to incite something, but it's just those are the two options at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they don't want to do that because they don't want that role. Yeah,
and I agree. And the part of the problem is when you look at we can blame the Brits for this one. Right, this whole mess in the Middle East currently.
Oh, absolutely.
But part of what Israel has is there's something called the Golan Heights. And the reason they're so important is that is basically the entire water supply for every country in the Middle East within, 500 miles. And every time the Palestinians act up or any of the Islamists start to act up, they turn off the water to all the Muslim areas. So now they don't have any water. You can't bathe, you can't drink, you can't eat, it's just nuts. And the Israelis keep doing that. And at some point, somebody has to stop somewhere. And neither side is interested. And in fact, I'm looking at foxnews.com, the best website ever.
Oh, man. I know several websites that are better than Fox News that have nothing to do with politics.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's we don't need to discuss your personal life on there. But as truce talks advance, Israel vows to take whatever action necessary. So it looks like they're getting ready. And I know today they have massed close to 200,000 troops along the Gaza Strip. How a little tiny country manages to mass that many people, I have no idea. Anyway, that's what
forcible military service.
Yeah,
compulsory military service. That's how they do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So, well, now we've talked about Hamas and everything else. Talking about compulsory service, let's talk about unions and they're compulsory dues donations. If
I'm
going to
let you go ahead and talk, and then I'll weigh in.
You'll weigh in? Yeah. Now I'm going to tell you, I grew up not liking unions, all right? And it wasn't because I was a Republican or Dad was a Republican. It was because I watched my neighbor, Red, and I won't use his last name in case he's, listening. But Red, I watched him go out on strike about every 2 to 3 years. And, I understood the reasons. They want better working conditions. They want to be able to feed their families. They don't want to have to, risk their lives to work in a facility that, you shouldn't have to risk your life to work. And I understand that. I mean, that's an easy concept. So I was behind the union idea, since I was a small kid, old enough to understand that. But with this, what I didn't like about them, unions anymore really are not about trying to help the worker. They're about trying to perpetuate their power. And I observed this with the Firestone strikes back in the 70s. And Red would go out on strike. He'd be out on strike for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, 6 months, a year, no income, no nothing. And finally they would agree basically to the same contract. That entire strike was just a thumb their nose at the business. And I watched this happen over and over. And then one year, Red was actually out, I believe, for 2 years. And of course, he's scrambling around doing roofs and construction, whatever he could get his hands on, just trying to make ends meet. They never had enough money. And finally, I remember him talking to my brother Mike over across the fence, because we lived out in the country, and that's what you do, talk to your neighbor across the fence. And I remember Red saying, I've had enough of this. I've had enough. The people that are running my union are not negotiating for us. And we're all going to get together and go down there and tell them, this is what we want. We want to get back to work, and you make it happen. Facing a revolt from their own people, they went down there and got it settled. The problem is unions do not represent their people anymore. They represent themselves. And much like a politician, once they get in there, you can't get them out. And they're really not interested in trying to negotiate. They're just interested in trying to maintain their power. And that's, and I will tell you, I had a situation in a residency I won't mention. Anybody who knows me knows what residency it is, where I actually got together with some of my colleagues and said, I'm going to form a student union because the way they're treating us here is absolutely horrific. Now, just the phrase, I'm going to form a union, got back to the people that were in power. Things improved just enough that I couldn't get anybody together on. I understand why we have unions. I just don't think that the powerful unions today, such as the teachers union, UAW, are providing the services that they were originally intended for. Lefty, it's all up to you.
Well, I guess you didn't really attack the theory of organization, which is sort of a lot of what Republicans and conservatives do, is that they don't think that people should ever organize and collectively bargain for better working conditions, a 5-day work week, 40-hour, a 5-day, 40-hour work week, no child labor, weekends, paid holidays, things like that we've all sort of come to take for granted, which ages and ages ago were not something that you took for granted at all. So I appreciate that. And the sentiment that unions don't represent their dues paying members, I feel like I think it's maybe something that's I don't know. I don't want to stipulate to that, just because for the simple fact that unions have been under attack and have been dwindling in recruitment and popularity and membership since the 80s, easily, because non-union factories came along and said, hey, we're going to replicate all the perks that union workers in other factories bled themselves dry to get. We're going to replicate all those perks and amenities and then lure all these other folks that don't want to pay dues to a union and bring them in and let them work here, or have them work here, therefore undermining the effectiveness of the union. Now, that wouldn't be possible without a union, but it's a collateral attack that bleeds union membership dry and makes people kind of question why they even need to be a part of a union. I had a friend of mine in college who whose parents were teachers, and so he was a good union kid, the way that my dad was a teacher for a real long time, and I was a good union kid. My dad never went on strike that I remember growing up, but he stood in solidarity a lot of the times at different conferences that he spoke at. So I come from a union background for sure.
Sure.
And this friend of mine worked for a non-union factory. I don't remember where. I don't even know if it was in Iowa, because I'm sure that Iowa has non-union factories, but they don't have very many factories. Don't remember where it was, but he told me that this non-union factory was a lot better, safer, cleaner, and more well put together than a lot of union factories that he had been to, which makes a certain amount of sense, except that employers don't do that on their own. The whole concept of a rational employer that looks after its employees and provides for them because a happy employee is a good employee was completely disproven back in the 20s. You had robber barons go in and strip a community dry of its workforce and work them to death and then move on to the next place. That's sort of why unions started popping up all over the countryside. And to discount the impact that unions have had on our society, and to say that, well, you know, we don't need them now because they've grown into this organization. Honestly, the same argument that I hear a lot of people talk about, well, unions were good in the past because they used to provide a lot of benefits and they used to do a lot of good stuff, but anymore they're sort of responsible for all the strife and discord and disagreement in the world. Kind of sounds a lot like what atheists talk about religion to me. Religion was good back in the old days, back in the days before science, when people needed to believe in something and believe that a god made the volcanoes erupt. Yeah, religion was good because it explained a lot of things, but now that we've got science, now that we've disproved a lot of the stuff that religion used to claim, we don't really care about it as much, and it's responsible for all the wars, massacres, and general strife around the world. And I don't think that any religious person would agree with that statement, just as I don't think that anybody who's ever felt that had the benefit of union labor, where without need for regulation from the government, the union can regulate itself and make sure that its plumbers are bonded, make sure that its contractors don't cheat you, because... And you know this, having had union labor work for you before. If you have a union carpenter that does a job and does a crappy job of it, yeah, his position at the company, or his position with the union, might be protected by seniority, but that union will enforce its rules on him and kick him out, because you can't have one guy, one rotten apple, following up the works. And so I think that unions are necessary. I think that union membership should be protected and easy to organize, because you're right, the threat of a union.
But why don't? So you support making people join a union when they go to work? You don't believe in the right to work.
The problem with the right to work as it's characterized is basically what I said. You had a bunch of people organize in one factory on one side of town because the factory owner on that side of town didn't want to give them any sort of benefits.
Well, but the question is you don't support right to work. That's a yes or no. Either you support letting people choose if they want to join a union or not, or you support people being forced to join a union in order to be able to go into to get a job. I mean, it's either one or the other, right? So which way do you write? Do you support being able to voluntarily join a union, or do you support making people join a union in order to have a job?
I think that I think that all union membership is voluntary. I think that a union can encourage somebody to join it or find work elsewhere, just in the same way that an employer can encourage people to not form a union or join work elsewhere. I think it's two sides of the same coin.
Well, yeah, but one person's responsible for those employees and making sure that they have enough money and the rest of it, and the other group is responsible not for those employees. Because the bottom line is a union, great, but they're not the ones that are providing the jobs. There's the person with the business is providing the jobs and the money. And for me, it's very important that you have
without labor, the guy providing the jobs has no jobs. They're necessary. It's like a bow and an arrow. One is useless without the other.
Yeah, I get it, but I like your bow and arrow thing because it's a union. The workers, the boss, and the union. The workers and the boss are, for lack of a better term, the boss, are the bow and arrow, and the union is the 6-pound weight you tie to shaft of it.
No,
right?
the union's extra fletching to make the arrow fly straighter.
Well, extra fletching if you mean a 5-pound stone attached to the back of it, yeah. So, I mean, for me, one of the things that I know happened is you pay your dues, but then they support people you don't support, right? And so there's been several measures that say, if you're a union, you're not allowed to use your dues specifically for political purposes. You can advertise and you can put your mission statements out and everything else, but to come out and directly support one candidate or another, you're not allowed to do that. There are several ballots like that, and some of them were defeated, right? Mm-hmm. Also, when you're a government worker, apparently you are required to pay dues to the government union, whatever union it would be and whatever job you are, and you are required to take it. I wish my cousin Valerie would call them, because she's a left winger like you. She's even worse than you, right? Mm-hmm. And she can't stand unions. She was a union person and grew up. I mean, she grew up in Ottumwa. I mean, you can't get much more union than Ottumwa.
But it's a balance. I mean, I feel like I think that the argument that unions have had excesses, just like every other organization in this country has had excesses, just like the folks that had the people that ran afoul of the trust busters and the demonopolizers back in the boom times had excess. I think that's not an unfair way to characterize it, but it's a fine balance, because I'm telling you, the minute that folks stop feeling the need to organize is the minute that you see these companies think that they can run roughshod. The whole Hostess problem is being blamed on the unions, and yet no one reports that the CEO of Hostess approved himself for a 300% pay raise.
I get it.
You see what I'm so? Yeah. Everyone has to hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, and I agree 100% with that. 100%. But part of the reason that they originally filed for bankruptcy in 2004 was what I view as a punishing union pension system. They haven't been able to get out from underneath that pension system, and that's why they've had to, in part, that's why they had to file for bankruptcy. You see, I'm not, and here's the reality of it. Whether it's mismanaged or not, right? Let's say Hostess did mismanage it. You now have to correct that, and your choice is shut down the company or keep working trying to negotiate something out. And the unions always vote for, we're just going to shut it down, because they have that power. And you want to talk about, schoolyard bullies and people throwing big hissy fits. Unions, they seem to do that all the time. They did it at Maytag. They're doing it at Hostess.
Here's my last sort of comment, because we're running out of time. About just my comment about unions and the role that they play in the workforce. When it comes right down to it, and I just lost my train of thought.
All right,
go ahead.
We'll head on out. We'll be back in a minute for a commercial. When we get back, we're going to talk about the Iowa straw poll, because suddenly up on my Facebook just lit up. We're going to talk about the straw poll. Governor Branstad says no more straw poll. A.J. Spiker, the head of the Republican Party, says, yeah, more straw poll. So we're going to talk about that when we get back. All right, thanks for joining us. We're here every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on webcast1live.com. We'll be back in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Thanks for joining us tonight here on webcast1live.com. Before we left for the break, we started talking about the straw poll. And we have about 5 minutes left to talk about the straw poll. And right here on Facebook, apparently Governor Branstad said late this afternoon that that he would like to see the straw poll not be held anymore. And AJ Spiker came out and said, well, I respectfully disagree with the governor. We ought to have it. Now, for those of you who don't know, do you Democrats have a straw poll too?
No, we do not.
Republicans have a straw poll. Basically, it's just a big giant picnic. And people
it's a big fundraiser is what it is.
And that too. But it's a lot of fun, right? You know, you go out there, everybody that wants to run for office is out there. You get to meet and hobnob with all these Republicans. And how can you not have fun hobnobbing with Republicans?
I always have a great time. I will admit that.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. So, anyway, the straw poll brings in a lot of attention from the nation to us in Iowa. You know, I'm great. We have the first of the nation caucus. Every presidential election, we're fighting to keep that. I mean, this year is in December? This is getting nuts, right?
Yep.
So, you know, at some point, we're not going to be first in the nation, but we can always have the straw poll. So not only do you bring in all this publicity, you bring in a ton of money. And it's a ton of money not only for Republicans, but for the state in general. You know, you have people eating at restaurants, you have all kinds of stuff. It usually occurs during the state fair. Anyway, I think we got to keep the straw poll because it will save a lot. It will keep the fundraising going. And here's a suggestion from Matt Schneider, one of my Facebook buddies. He wants to do a Governor Branstad and Chuck Grassley dunk tank. Now, I'm all for that. What do you think of that?
I would throw some softballs at Chuck Grassley and Terry Branstad. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much would you pay per ball?
Per ball, I would. Oh, man, if you're asking me to pay for it, I don't know that I'd really care about paying for it.
$10 a ball.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
See, you know, Lefty over here would throw down an easy C note for $5 each. You know, 10 each, you know.
I don't have that good of an arm, so I'd probably pay somebody to do it for me.
Oh yeah. That's smart thinking.
Yep.
You know, that's smart thinking. Everybody, I hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday weekend.
Well, to take out the show, I want to mention some of the things that are happening with some of my buddies around town, and then I'm going to ask you what you're thankful for, Doc. So we got a few different things tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at the beautiful Rock and Bombay Bicycle Club up in Clive. Des Moines Unplugged 2. I was one of the feature performers. My old duo was one of the feature performers at Des Moines Unplugged 1. It was a really great time. This is a little bit different of a gig. It's a little less formal, just a few less players, but it's hosted by my good friend and buddy Chris Ronaldo. That's at the Bombay Bicycle Club in Clive tomorrow, Wednesday. Also tomorrow night, starting at 9 o'clock, my good friends, It's Complicated, a great band, local band here in Des Moines. Are hosting an open jam at the Standard Martini Bar that's downtown on 3rd, just around the corner from our studio. That's what I've done that a few times. It's a great time. So if you play an instrument or otherwise entertain people, you can participate in that. Then my good friend, a good friend of mine owns a bar in Clive called the Flying Moose, and it's been a lot of different things over the years, but I think this one's going to stick. He's got a Black Friday blowout. Now I'm not going to go over all the different drink specials and stuff, but I can tell you just by looking at his advertisement here, it's on Black Friday, this Friday after Thanksgiving. Get out there, and if you had enough of family and you really want to get your intense party on, the Flying Moose is the place to be there. It's basically, and also a great place to watch all the college football games that are happening on Friday. So the Flying Moose in Clive, Black Friday blowout, sponsored by Jägermeister, starting at 10 o'clock on Friday.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Have a happy and safe holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving, Doc. Yeah. What are you thankful for?
That everybody I love and care about is healthy.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, that's, and the fact that we got another 4 years of Obama and gives us a show for the next 4 years. All right. Thanks everybody for coming in. We'll be back next week. We don't know what the topic will be yet, but stay tuned on our Facebook. It is Doc and Lefty, I think. Isn't that what our Facebook is?
It is.
All right. And we'll have a website up soon, hopefully, before Christmas. Thanks, everybody, tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Keep your ears and mind open.
Or at least your mind.
Oh, Frank. You stepped all over my...